Aloha and welcome to Experience 52, Part 4 of Digits. This is a really great section of it because we're going to deal with forms, and that provides the ability for the user to interact with the application, which of course is, for most applications, it's really important for users to be able to interact. And forms is kind of the basic way. There are other ways to interact with web apps, but forms is are probably the fundamental one. You definitely need to know how to use forms. When we're done, we'll have an add contact page that allows us to add a new contact to Digits, and we'll also have an edit page that allows us to take a pre-existing contact and change values. And you'll see these are very close, very easy. Once you know how to do one, doing the other one's really easy to do. Before starting this WOD, I really want you to go through Meteor Example Form React. Okay, this is really important because um, if you go through this application, you fill around with it, you watch, in particular, you watch the screencast at the bottom. I go through details of how Uniforms works. Uniforms is basically a way that bridges um, HTML forms, React components, and semantic UI display. Okay, so those three things have to interact in order for you to use a form correctly. And if you do it in kind of vanilla React, there's a lot more code, a lot more things that can go wrong. So the beauty of uniforms is that it provides this way to bind together those three aspects of forms: the React component part, um, the HTML controller part, and the semantic UI presentation part. So there's a little bit of overhead getting to understand how to use it, but then once you understand how to use it, the amount of code you have to write and the amount of bugs that you'll create, this is the important thing, the amount of errors you can make goes dramatically down once you're using uniforms. Okay, so so definitely make sure you're familiar. Go through that screencast. Be fairly comfortable with that before you move on. Then watch the screencast before you try this for the first time. Take some notes, etc., etc. And yeah, we'll move on. Okay, so the other thing is we need to merge Contacts Collection 1 or Contacts Collection 2, whichever one you want, into Master Branch so that we're starting this WOD with master being completely up to date. So let me try to do that. I'll go to GitHub. I'm in the master branch. And so I want to say merge into current branch, contacts collection 2. And I'll push the origin. So now GitHub also has a copy of the updated master as well as our master branch here being up to date. Okay, and just for grins, we can note down here that we don't have Meteor running, which is important, getting increasingly important when you're switching back and forth between branches. Okay, so so we'll do Meteor npm run start and check localhost 3000 just to make sure that it's all G. No, that's not what I want. So let's go here. Meteor npm run start. And as always, we run our terminal inside IntelliJ, keep this window open. That way, if any errors occur, we're aware of them immediately. Reduces a lot of problems. So we'll go over here to localhost. We'll do a refresh to get localhost 3000. And as you'll note, we have the Chrome Developer Tools window up, set to console. That way, if errors occur in the client side, we'll be aware of them immediately and can do the right thing. Let's log out. Whenever I restart Meteor, I like to sign in from scratch. And make sure that everything is where it should be. You see we have an add contacts. which is what we want to have. We notice that we've got collections running, mini Mongos populated. Everything's good. No errors in the console. Okay, so we've got our context merged. Everything looks to be running fine. Now we're ready for the WOD. As I said before, don't just stop and start this video. Won't really help you nearly as much. So we'll start. We're going to create a branch called Contact Forms 1 using GitHub Desktop. Contact Forms 1. Create branch. Now this is every rule has an exception. This is kind of the one Git command you can do while Meteor's running, because creating a branch has no impact on the underlying source code. It's a Git only kind of mechanism. And then I just pushed it to don't pull requests. We generally in this class will not be using pull requests, so you can always ignore that. But we do want to push it to GitHub. Okay. Pro tip: run within the terminal window. Yes. Keep Chrome DevTools open. Yes. Meteor DevTools enhance. Yes. Okay. Create the add contact page. Make a copy of add stuff called add contact. Change component name to add contact. Change all other references at the top of the file. Change the import of stuffs to import contacts. Okay. So add stuff to add contact. So add stuff to add contact. Okay, and we want to call this, I think there's a few places, yeah. So we'll do a propeller R, change add stuff to add contact. Okay, that was good. What else? At the top of the file, change the import of stuffs to import contacts. So instead of importing stuffs, we can import contacts from API contact contacts. Okay, so now the good news is that contacts is underlined because we're not using it, and then any references to stuffs like here is going to be noted as referencing something that hasn't been imported. So change the import of stuffs to import contacts. Change the form schema to specify the 5 strings to be collected by the form. First name, last name, address, image, description. Okay, so form schema should be first name, last name, address, image, description. And quantity and condition are not part of contacts. First name, last name, address, image, description. In the submit method, extract the 5 form field names from the data object, then provide them to the insert call. Don't forget to include the owner field. Okay, so what happens here is we've got this destructuring definition, or destructuring assignment, I think they call it, where we're given an object and we want to initialize a bunch of variables, or constants, I should say, to the fields in this object. It's super convenient. So first name, last name, address, image, description is all going to be assigned to within this function out of this data field. So what I'm going to do here is just change these to do the insert. Now, of course, we don't want contact. We don't want stuffs. We want contacts. Collection.insert. We've got the owner here. Okay. Where does this data field come from? As you recall, on submit, right, when the user clicks the submit field, then all those field values are going to be by uniforms bound up into an object, and that object will be passed to a function that's the value of the on submit field. And what's our function? Our function is a function that takes one argument, data, which is that stuff that uniforms has gathered from the HTML controls, and takes that object and then calls this submit with that object and this f ref. Okay, this is stuff here, as I noted before in the other video. We just want that in order to reset the form. So after you do an add, it's nice if the form field values all go away. Kind of indicate you've added them successfully. And in order to do that, you have to call reset on the form object. And so this stuff here is just a way of defining that fref value to be a reference to the form object, which can then be passed to this submit field. So in the event of success, we can reset the form fields to nothing. Okay. What else do we have to do? Okay, so in the submit method, we provide to the insert, we got the owner call. Now in the render method inside the outer form, change the header to add contact. So change add contact. Replace the form fields for stuff documents by 5 form fields for contact documents. First name, last name, address, and image can be text fields. Description can be a long text field. So first name, last name, address, image are all text fields, and then description, we want that to be like a paragraph kind of thing, so we're going to make that a long text field. And then quantity and condition, don't need those. Now we got this long text field thing which we don't know about, and so what we do is we just say long text field up here. We can get rid of those two that don't matter for this. Okay, so yeah, good. Okay, now create the routing for add contact. So in app.jsx, change the route for add stuff to add contact. Okay, so in app.jsx, add stuff should be add contact. And that means that this adds add contact, add contact. Remember to update both sides of this. That's something folks frequently forget to do. Yeah. Okay, and then in the nav bar, I see there's some in nav bar, change the add stuff link to the add contact link. So in the nav bar, change add stuff to add contact. Okay, did that. Now you should have a link to add contact in the nav bar. Let's see, so we've restarted. Yeah. And if we click on it, we get this. Now notice that add contact, that's black. I think we want to invert that, right? So add contact, we call this inverted. And then it refreshes itself. We've got that in white. Cool. Okay, so test your add contact code by filling out submitting a new contact. In the screencast, I used info from Scott Robertson. Yes, I did. Let's open this link in a new tab. Okay, so here's my friend Scott. And so we'll say Scott Robertson, post building. And then we need an image for him. Got one right here. Copy image address. Bam. And then we need some text about him. Let's go to his home page. Blah, 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 blah. So we'll go that, like that. Do this. Okay. And then we'll click submit. It says success. So we'll say, okay, because we called that form reset, notice that everything went away from there. Now if we go to list contacts, we can see Scott is here. We can also go into Meteor, and we can see now there is an entry for Scott in our contacts collection that we own, or john@foo.com owns. Okay, that was good. Okay, so that we got Scott in there. Now, in this picture, it's admin@foo.com. Here, I'm john@foo.com. That's why you see 3, and the other 2 are different contacts than in this image. Sometimes I'm in admin, sometimes I'm not. Okay, now let's create the edit contact page. And we're going to do the similar thing to create the edit contact page. So we'll make a copy of edit stuff called edit contact. And you know, this is the beauty, I think, of using a template, is that it doesn't stop you from thinking. You got to still think, but you've got some code that's, you know, in the general vicinity of what you need. And then the thinking is, well, what's the diff? You know, what's the logical diff to go from this basic code to my situation? All right, so edit stuff, we want this to be called, well, we want to go from edit stuff to edit contact. And there's 3, let's just check and see which ones are going to be changed. So those are all appropriate to be changed. What else? Okay, import contacts, not stuffs. So let's change this to import contacts from, and you got to get this path right. Okay, that's going to be, I know if you know, past experience is any predictor, you know, people will go too fast in this step right here, and you'll get an error. Okay, so next, the bridge constant should be built with contacts.schema, not stuffs.schema. So that's real obvious, right? We want to use the schema from the contacts collection to build this bridge thing. The bridge thing has to be passed into the auto form, just to, you know, kind of make things work correctly. Okay, and then update the submit method to update contacts collection with contact data. So let's update the submit. So we're going to call this contacts collection.update, and then we don't want name, quantity, condition. We want, actually what I'm going to do is I think I can go, I'm going to extract, let's just go this way. This is kind of, you know, I could just retype it, or if I'm lazy, I can, now I need that underscore ID, okay, because that's what I'm going to use to do this set command. And then the set is going to be to set all these values. Okay, we're going to set, so the user might only change one of these fields, But rather than try to figure out which one they changed, it's really kind of, more efficient or simpler coding wise. Just reset all of them. So some of these might be set to the same value they had before, but at least we don't have to now kind of check to see which one is different. And we need this underscore ID um, in order to um, um, figure out which one we're actually going to update. Okay, underscore ID is always an implicit part of the doc, the data, the object that um, that uniforms is going to pass. Okay, so all right, so now here we need to update these. And so to do that, again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to add contact, and I'm just going to get these fields and copy them. And then we still want the submit. Okay, and long text field is not defined. So we'll do this. And okay, so that all looks pretty good. Whoops, this doesn't look good. Okay, so um, okay, so the model is this.props.docs. I just want to clarify that. Docs is contacts collection find one with the document ID, which is match.params underscore ID. And so we'll have an underscore ID field that's returned when we find that document. So Mongo always provides an underscore ID field as a default part with the doc ID. And just noticing this. And so that doc object is passed in as the model, and then these fields in that document are updated, but the underscore ID field is still in there, returned by uniforms, and then passed to the submit field where it can be accessed. Okay. All right, so change the subscription call, update render. Okay, I think we've done all that. Let me just look through. So we get the green check, so there's no other errors. So now we create a routing to edit contacts. So create a routing for edit contact by editing app.jsx. So edit stuff goes to edit contact. Okay. Now add an edit link to the contact card. To create the edit link, take a look at stuffitem.jsx to see an example of the React Router link component. So stuffitem.jsx. Okay. So here's in the default stuff application stuff. The template. We list everything as a table, not as cards, and then we provide this link to say, if you want to edit the field, here is the URL, which is /edit/ and then the ID, the doc ID associated with this particular item. And that's where we want to traverse to and display. Okay, and so what I recommend, because we're not dealing with cards, but rather we're dealing with because we're not dealing with tables, but rather with cards, we'll update the contact.jsx to provide a component that has that edit field that's located right here. And this is the code to do it, which is very straightforward. So contact.jsx, we put that like that, and now we have to add that link object from React Router DOM. This is the place where you find this link element. And basically this is saying this will create an object which is a link, the label will be edit, and then the reference is to the /edit/docid. So we'll see an example of that in a second. All right, so when we're done, the list contacts page should include an edit link at the bottom of each contact. So let's take a look. First, let's look in our console, no errors, and then we have an edit field. And now you can see, if you look over in this section, it disappears when I put the pointer over there, but look over there when I move over the edit field. Now you can see the URL. So it's our host, localhost #hash, which is a React Router thing, /edit, / there's the doc ID associated with the particular, Philip Johnson. Okay, if we go to Henry Casanova, you see a different doc ID. Scott Robertson, different doc ID. Okay, and then clicking on the link should display a page that looks like this. All right, oops. So if we go back here, we click the link. Okay, we've now gone to the edit stuff page, and we're displaying that data. Now I notice that edit stuff is not inverted, so we can go edit contact. Should say edit contact, not edit stuff, and it should be inverted. So save that out, refreshes. Okay, edit contact, and we then changed Philip to Phil, press submit. This looks okay. We say list contacts, now it's displayed as Phil Johnson, not Philip Johnson. And go back here, and fix me, and submit, and there we go, all G. Okay, so let's check for ESLint errors. So that means we have to quit and meteor npm run lint. Okay, no ESLint errors. And so meteor stop your timer, note your time, 23:09. Let's just call it round down 23 minutes or 24 minutes. Let's call it 24 minutes. Push contact forms finished in 24 minutes. Contact forms finished in 24 minutes. Hit push. Okay, there we have it. So I hope that was clear, and we'll move on to Digits Part 5.